Yeah, mate. Have you got any more beers? Hi. Yeah. Mike.
Okay, good evening. How are we all? Thank you for coming. We basic arrangements are, I'm going to run through these now. I've got about 5 minutes, which is always an interesting time period, as some of you know. This is the outline plan, but any good lesson plan, it could change throughout the evening. But effectively, we're going to be in here till about 5 o'clock. We've got some keynote speakers, Richard, Sonny, and Luke. We're going to go upstairs to the top floor, which is going to be the main logistical problem of the evening. Once we get there, we'll have the workshops on for about an hour. We're going to probably stay up there and do some Q&A if the Q&A is required by that point, because I know that Luke and Sonny have got some live Google questioning going on in a bit, so they may have that all wrapped up, and then we'll finish off, and I'll say thank you to all the people who need to get back to that point. So we're going to start for about 5 minutes now. What are you here for? It's a good question to start with. This is what you're here for, DCF and pedagogy. That's the theme of the evening. DCF, obviously the new concept which has come into schools in September, and pedagogy is we're going to try and show some ways that it's implemented in the classroom. But it's basically taking place for a couple of reasons. We run the Excellent Teacher Programme in our schools, and as part of that Excellent Teacher Programme, one of the challenges that I think I might have given to a group was to say, why don't we run a teacher unit? They keep harping on about the need to collaborate and network as a group. They came together last December, almost a year ago now. Okay? Almost a year ago they came together, they didn't really know each other, and they've kept that link together. So the Excellent Teaching Programme, and their little hashtag is the ASCTP4. If you want to use that on Twitter, you can see what it is that they get up to. What we're here for, though, and my role in all this, is what some people refer to as teacher agency. Okay, so that's a term which is bandied about, and it's about upskilling our teachers, but it's actually about upskilling them with the confidence that they need to be able to do things like they're doing. You're all on here somewhere, okay? The career development milestones. There's lots of talk in my profession about what do teachers need, what will teachers need for the new curriculum. You can cheer when you figure out that you can't. Okay, so there's plenty of students in here, there's plenty of aspiring teachers. Everybody's on here somewhere, and it's about upskilling and building confidence in people. So whether they're MQTs, whether they're student teachers, you'll spend most of your time being a practicing teacher. Okay, so some of you haven't even started yet, you're still at that top end. You'll go into leadership very early. Okay, very early in your career, you'll start to lead things around the school. Even when you're an MQT, possibly before that, you'll start leadership. The leadership will go on and on and on at various levels. Okay, so what we've got here are the career development milestones. You're going to be a long time in the profession. Some of us have been in it longer than others. Until that happened. I was actually in a meeting the other day where someone drew a timeline. We were talking about professional development, teacher agency, and he actually wrote the word death down at the end. Okay, you're a long time. Just think about how long your career is going to be. Okay, it's what, 2060? Some of you are students. You could still be teaching in 2056. And we're here looking at the DCF now in 2016. Imagine how different that's going to be in just a year's time, in just 2 years' time. In 40 years' time, who knows how far away that's going to be. how are we going to make these improvements? How are we going to get this teacher agency developed? Well, one of the new things which is coming into the profession now are the new teacher standards. So many of you will be using these teacher standards. If you're a student now, this is going to be your life. This is how you're going to be making your development strategy, how you're going to be developing professionally. And for those of you who haven't seen them, one of the major key characteristics that we're talking about here is pedagogy. Okay, so tonight's about DCF and pedagogy, and one of the drivers through the rest of your career will be pedagogy. If you're a leader, head teacher, whatever it is, these are the things. And what's nice is there's innovation in there as well. There is collaboration. So the things that the guys are doing at the back tonight, where they've kept collaborating for a year, and many of you have been on those programs, it's all going to be good evidence for you in your professional development. Because it is all about leadership, it is all about professional learning. Okay, so these concepts, look, students are even taking notes. They don't even know who I am, but they're taking notes. Okay, so professional learning, collaboration, innovation, leadership. That's what's going to drive you now for the next 30, 40 years in the profession. And they should all work together, okay? Because it should all be about pedagogy. Most important thing is the pedagogy in the classroom. When you strip it all back, when it's stripped back to where it needs to be, that's what it's all about. But what we're actually talking about as well, apart from teacher agency, is this other thing which I read the other day about human agency. Because it isn't just about the teachers. And I read that lovely little phrase, okay? But human agency, building that confidence in someone, it's the start of them. So those children, at whatever age they come to you in your classroom, and they're working with you, you're going to play a part in starting off their life. Right? You play a part in starting their life off. And that is also going to be one of the drivers. Okay? And I saw this lovely phrase the other day as well. The new mothering. Okay? The kids who can't talk to each other and who can't socialise because technology means they don't have to socialise in the same way that they did before. So if you don't know your Rudyard Kipling, okay? That half-naked boy who was in the jungle, right? He couldn't communicate because he hadn't been forced to. And is technology going to lead to the same sorts of things? Already we've seen reports saying that kids who come into foundation stage and those stages are having trouble communicating, okay, through social deprivation. Teenagers, social media, communication, they're wrapped up in their own little world. And you've got to try somehow to manage all that. I can't answer that question. How does digital technology enhance learning? You're going to be shown how people think it's going to enhance learning today. But for you, I think the most important question is how are you going to manage that technology as a teacher? Okay, we all use technology. It's going on right now. We're live feed on Twitter. Okay? How are we going to manage that technology to the best enhancement of those pupils? And hopefully you're going to see some examples of where those teachers who've done their collaboration and their networking are going to try and do it. At the end of today, we're going to do a Q&A session. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just note down anything you want to ask, okay, because you'll forget about it. You can ask, Luke tells me, you can ask any question you want and he will answer it. Okay? So if you want to ask any questions about trout fishing or anything like that, I reckon you can do it. Okay? I reckon you can do it. And he will be the man who gives you the answer. But now I'm going to hand you over to Richard. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and he's going to start the journey on pedagogy and his work that he does in school, and then we'll have Luke and Sunny on some of the DCF. Thank you very much.
It's fantastic to see so many faces here. Children I taught many, many years ago. Students who were in their first year in Cardiff Med. I guess so young in the corridors here, but it's fantastic to see you all. I'm going to talk to you about growth mindset. And I want to take you back on my journey, okay? And it starts in September 2012. And I was head of year 11, and I was dragged in front of the SLT. And basically, they said that, yeah, Rich, you're responsible for year 11's results this year. You are responsible. The 273 students who are going through this year, you're responsible for them. And their results are going to be directly influenced by you. I didn't even teach a year 11 class that year. So maybe a bit unfair, but you know, I'll take responsibility for that. So, at that time, I got introduced to a book called Banks, which is by Matthew Said, and I recommend that you read it. And in there was a small little chapter called Growth Mindset. And it really, really struck a resonance with me. I realized that I've been living my life for 35 years with a fixed mindset, a detrimental mindset which is fixed. I also looked at the students who I was teaching, and I realized that they all have a fixed mindset as well. Okay, when we look at what a growth mindset is and what a fixed mindset is, a growth mindset would say intelligence is valuable, quality and potential can be developed, but this fixed mindset would say that it is fixed. I looked at my life, I was fixed. I looked at the students. My research would show that 90% of the students that I was teaching had a fixed mindset. It was like seeing a Walking Dead where they're all just walking in. I can't do maths, I can't do English, I can't do PE, I can't do this, I can't do that. We also had some students who said, yes, I'm very good at maths, I'm very good, I was born good at maths, I'm very good at maths, they got an A in GCSE, and then they went to do A-levels and they dropped out. All the result of a fixed mindset. Now, I was lucky enough as head of year 11 to have 2 assemblies a week. One was my assembly, the other one was an SLT assembly. The SLT members never turned up, so I had 2 hours. Sorry, 2 assemblies with them, and I had to produce content. So I thought, you know what? I need to teach these kids about growth mindset. And I did 2 assemblies every week, growth mindset stories, growth mindset information, statistics on growth mindset, and the impact that growth mindset has. And as head of year, if any of you are head of years or in the pastoral area, you'll know that that's probably the worst job in the school. You're right in the middle, you have so much rubbish shoved your way every single day. But I started to notice that started to stop. I started to notice that the emails I started to get were actually positive. The students were actually showing a positive attitude in their lessons. They were starting to actually improve, and teachers could see it in them, just the way in which they walked into the door in some cases. We fast forward to the summer 2013, and across Kingdom High School where I teach, well, we're 60% A to C, inclusive, going along, fixed mindset, we just think 60%. That year is 73%. And if you remember at the beginning, the SLT said I was responsible for their grades, so I am taking credit for that. So, that's my own work. I did a little master's on it, and I showed that 90% of students have a fixed mindset. We've done a lot of work in school, but the work actually comes from Carol Dweck. Now, Carol Dweck, along with Blackwell et al., they showed in a longitudinal study that growth mindset does have an impact on learning. There was a control group and the growth mindset group, and the growth mindset group really, really took off. Okay? And they showed massive, massive improvements. Now, I could speak to you for hours and hours and hours on growth mindset and particularly how do I embed growth mindset into my classroom? How do you do it? How do we do it into the school? It could be a morning inset, a full day inset on it. Okay. Later on, you're going to go around all the little Teachbite elements, and you're going to listen to a couple of members of staff, a couple of guys who sat at the back. They're going to talk to you about growth mindset in maths. They're going to talk to you about metacognition and the way in which you can bring that into your classroom. And I'm going to let them do that. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about something that's very, very important. And it's what's going on in your brain and our students' brain when they learn. And that is the role of myelin. Okay? The role of myelin. Now, it's not a biology lesson in any stretch of the imagination, but when I asked Luke, I did ask Bethany, but she wouldn't do it. When I asked Luke to play the guitar on my son, just play a tune. Go on then, off we go. Put your hands in the air if you want. Before I start doing this, we can do it together. I'll try to keep rhythm.
Oh, sorry.
Right, thank you.
Pleasure.
That was all.
That was Roland Keating, by the way. I was going to break into song, but you stopped.
That was all the role. I just created a pointer, which is amazing as well. That was all the role of myelin. Okay, and myelin is the most important thing in learning. Now, basically, if you know any of your biology, that whenever we do something, we send a message along an axon to another little cell, and that goes on billions and billions of times. Okay. What happens? Don't worry about astrocytes and OLD and those, right? Just worry about basically, what happens is when you start to do something repetitively and over again, the ACs actually recognize that, okay? And what the OLDs do is they send this magic substance called myelin, and they send it to coat that pathway, okay? And here you can see a myelin sheath, and it's surrounded like these sausages here, and it surrounds the pathway. And what that allows the impulse to do is travel quicker. So the things like Luke then, okay, when he was playing the guitar, it all appeared very, very natural to him, didn't it? Yeah? When I was tapping the golf ball, it perhaps looked very natural to you. It's not. It's the result of hours and hours and hours of practice. Thank you. Whether or not I'm waiting, whether or not I play a handicap 3, I'm not a bad golfer at all. I spend hours and hours and hours playing. Okay? And what happens is you build up this sheath of myelin. Now, that's not just in physical skills. Okay? That is in everything that we do. Who are the good readers in your class? The people who read a lot? Yeah? Who are the good ones at maths? The people who do a lot of maths. Who are the ones who are good at football? The ones who do a lot of football. It's all that's happened is that they have built up this sheath of myelin around these pathways. Okay? And it is so important that your students know about that. Okay? Because that lends itself to growth mindset. And it lends itself to the fact that if you practice, if you put in effort, if you work hard, then you are going to get better. Because the myelin is going to build up. If I were to take Luke here and put him on this bench and chop the top of his head off, I would see the part of his brain which is responsible for playing the guitar to have a white matter all over it, okay? That is myelin. Mine would be for sport. I'm a PE teacher. Okay? What would your brains be? Where would your myelination be? Where would your students' myelination be? Okay? And that's the question. Now, if you can get it over to your students, and one of your primary school teachers, if you can get that over to your students, the fact that when they are doing something over and over again and repeating it and using those pathways, they are going to get better. And unless you know that, you can't have a growth mindset. Okay? So, as I said, when you go up and around the other Teachbites data, you'll hear things about the language and metacognition, which are also very, very important in growth mindset. I just want to finish on this slide, the law of diffusion and innovation. Okay, only 16% of any group actively pursue change. Congratulations for being here today, because you are in that 16%. You know those people who couldn't be bothered to come, who couldn't find someone to look after their kids, or thought, oh, you know, I can't do that because of this. I can't do it, and they made excuses not to be here. Yeah, they're all swimming around in there. Right? You know who you are. Look at the camera. Right? You're the fish. You're jumping out of that pond. Okay? It's up to you to go and spread the word. To spread the word about what's going on in the EAS, to spread the word about growth mindset and all the other things that you are going to see this afternoon. And I think that is about 10 minutes, okay? So, thank you very much for listening, and I am now going to hand over to the DCF expert. Oh, by the way, food that. It's you're going to get out of your comfort zone, aren't you? You looking at technology in the classroom. Unless you do it, you're not going to get better at it. Okay? Unless you embrace it, unless you keep trying with it, things aren't going to work. You're not going to get the internet signal every now and again. Your computer's not going to work, but you've got to embrace it. Okay? If you embrace it, you will get better at it. Okay? Thank you very much. Here's your don't need my eyes. It's nice to have.
Right, you're doing this with DCF. I'm going to talk amongst yourselves while we sort the technology out. My lessons aren't like this, honestly.
Alright, sorry about that. Well, thank you very much for the invite to come and join you and speak at the Teachbites. Kat did text me this morning and asked for our presentation. I texted her reply saying, sorry, I'm really busy today, I'll send it to you later. The reason was because we made it 10 minutes ago. So here it is, Kat. I'll save it for you afterwards if they can be sent out. My name is Matthew, Deputy Head of St. Julian's Primary in Newport.
So you said when he's at school?
Often when we present together, we presented the same things together. They introduce Sunny first and then say, it introduces us Sunny and Cher. We'll save you from the I've Got You Babe rendition.
Which is getting better. A lot of practice. I think my sheet is going thicker on that one.
Good, it's good. And we've got the guitar as well. So we can do that. I'm a little bit confused because I arrived tonight to talk about DCF. I've been thrown a guitar and I can apparently talk about track fishing. So who knows what will come out in our presentation. but we'll see how it goes. The live question link at the top, by the way, 10 minutes and it started. Yeah, it starts when I push go on the if you do want to ask a question, it's slightly ironic that we've got a digital competence thing in a place that's a nightmare to get on the wireless. Just raise your hand if you've actually got on the wireless. This is one, well done, this is wonderful. Top of the class. If you didn't manage to get on, so the questions basically have got to come from you three or anyone at home. If you want to ask a question and you can see the link on there, feel free to send it. It's always a dangerous thing to have the live question link when you're doing a presentation that's been live streamed, because you never know who's watching it and what questions they're going to ask. We presented at the head teachers conference and somebody asked us a question: would you prefer to be attacked by 10 horse-sized chickens or 1 chicken-sized horse? Which was a difficult question to answer, but not the type of thing we're really looking for.
You're wondering it's a horse-sized chicken. That's the one.
Oh, sorry. Anyways, we'll talk to you about DCF. So thanks for the invite. So what is digital competence then? Sonny, do you want to take this one?
Thanks, Adam. To be honest, when we started this process about a year and a half ago, there's a lot of us we expected to pioneer a process for the digital competency framework. And that question came up to all of us, and to be honest, then we didn't really answer it. And even now, to a certain degree, we've got a lot of views on what it actually means. So what we did was ask various different students, what does it mean? Asking people, what does it actually mean as to what is digital competence? We all sort of understand it, but is there a definitive answer? Right?
So you may recognise some of these people. They didn't actually realise they were going to be used at this conference. These are some teachers, genuine teachers in training at the moment, and I hope the sound works, because that's the first thing you should probably do when you present, is make sure the sound works. So let's see how we go.
What do you mean digital competence?
In fact, day-to-day life as well, it's always around me, so basically always on use it.
Legend in the middle just leaves his friends to deal with it. I'm just going to try and get back to the presentation now as well. I'm just going to skip down to the side and do it the old manual way. Let's see what the girls have to say there.
Okay, girls, what does it mean to be digitally competent? Do you know what digital competence is?
Ideal. So we're working with a tough crowd really, and the lecturer for them is here. Nick Young's their lecturer, so we're going to have a word with Nick and help him out with his lectures. Then we came across to this university and a completely different class. Wait till you see this guy. Is he here? Maybe here, I don't know.
A digitally competent learner is able to make use of the latest hardware and software found in education in order to meet the varied requirements of the new digital framework.
What do you think? That wasn't bad, was it? Give a clap, whoever it is. If you're watching tonight, that's a good moment. That was great, except for one thing. How we ended it to meet the requirements of the new curriculum. And that's the danger, is that I go to so many schools where we're teaching for other people, anyone it seems, other than the children who are sat in front of us. We're not teaching them digital skills to meet the requirements of the new curriculum. No, we're teaching them digital skills to face the world that they're going to end up in when they leave school and leave our care. So he had a pretty good go at it, except for that final statement. I'm just going to go back into this now. I don't know if that question thing will still be there. So let's just go for it. Okay, so what do we want our children to do with technology? I was going to say discuss between yourself. We haven't got an awful lot of time. Do you agree with this? Wrong answers and right answers. The wrong answers being start blogs, create Wordles, publish Animoto, design flip chart, produce videos. Or do we want them to raise awareness, start conversations, find answers, join partners, change minds, make a difference, take action? Sounds lovely, doesn't it? I would argue that actually this is a continuum. It's got to start on the left before you can get to the right. And there's nothing wrong if you're at the stage where you're doing some of these things on the left. That's wonderful, that's great. But we're aiming ultimately to get to the right. And I would say if you're somewhere in the middle of them and you're doing a bit of both, then that's the right place to be as well. To mention briefly, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, Andy Rockwell gets excited and swells himself with excitement every time the slide comes up.
You have to say soil them.
The SAMR model. And if you've ever heard of the SAMR model, SAMR model, it stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. When we think about technology in the classroom, and we are coming on to the digital competence framework, I promise. When we think about technology in the classroom and how it's used, there are some different categories that it can fall into. For example, take writing an essay. We'll take substitution, writing an essay. You could do that with a pen and paper, or you could just type it on whether that be using Microsoft Word, Google Doc, whatever it might be. It's just substitution. There's no value added from using technology. You've literally just substituted the pen and paper for the computer. And that's fine. There are times when that's perfectly wonderful and great to do. What we're aiming for, though, is to get a combination of actually higher order tasks where we're actually completely, at the top level, redefining the tasks of technology. In other words, you may have started off with an essay, and yeah, that's great and wonderful, but think of what technology will actually allow you to do. Completely redefine that essay task into creating a multimedia website with all sorts of links to videos and maybe adding podcasting into it. And actually, that's not accomplishable by just, it's accomplishable even a word, that you can't accomplish that from just using your pen and paper on your essay. Therefore, you completely redefine the task. And I would say, as teachers, it doesn't matter if you do a bit down here, but what we're aiming for is a good combination of all of those things. And I'm going to fast forward this video. I'm going to tweet it shortly, and I'll get Andy to retweet. But a fantastic video that explains it in far more detail than we've got time to now. And I'll probably skip that slide as well. So,
this is a really good video. It's on the Learning World's website. In this animation, in 3 minutes, it really explains brilliantly what the DCF is, what the different strands are, what the elements are in DCF. If you have time to watch it, in your schools, what we've done, we started tweeting this and sending it to parents as well. So there's a lot of anticipation happening about this DCF and the whole new curriculum. So really, within 3 minutes, that explains brilliantly what the DCF is, the purpose of it, why it was brought about, and the different elements and stuff. It can say far better than me possible said, so we'll skip on to this one. Essentially, what does a digital content learner look like? What Luke said earlier, this can't be about the hardware, it can't be about technology. Don't use technology for technology's sake, okay? So when we started this process, we started looking at what do these learners need to be confident with at these different stages. And this links very heavily to the Donaldson curriculum. Basically, what came onto all of this was, irrespective of age, the skill sets were important. It's not the technology, it's not about which device you're using on, it's not about what platform you're using on. What came through all of it was a skill set. And these skill sets went completely to the DCF. And these, sorry, before we come on to that, this is the process you've got going on. You changed the slides on, haven't you? Right? That process of how the DCF was produced. This is essentially how we went about producing DCF. We started with pioneer schools, we did a lot of research, we went back to, we did the first iteration of DCF. DCF was a year and a half ago to where it is now. It's a completely different document. We tested it at various different stages. There were 14 schools that were DCF, and it's arrogant to think that 14 schools could write the framework for the whole country. But the reason why a lot of schools have picked us pioneer schools because we already had networks. In EAS, it's a brilliant 21st schools network, and there's lots of other different transition group networks as well. So we tested the DCF at various different stages. We also had a QA group that looked at our work, and we went through it further and further and finally got the final document. It's on the Learning World's website. Please use it. Luke will talk to you a little bit later about the framework and the feedback. But back to it, the skills we talked about. What do these skills these learners have to have? Those are the skills there, okay? And they became the framework, the elements through all that framework. And on there, you've got citizenship, interactive collaborative producing, and the bottom one, data and computational thinking. And this is the one I think sets this DCF out from any other digital learning framework in the world. I'm going to come on to this in due course.
So it was released, it came out in September 2000, the start this September, just gone 16. It's now online as a kind of web app in exactly the same format as the LNF. There are some good things about it, some things that need to be developed, and the key point to say at this point, see this green thing? I know I'm tall, but I'm not pointing that. So that bit there, that is a really key part of the DCF because it's still in development, and although it's been released, there will be tweaks made, bearing in mind that the digital competence framework is supposed to work in a similar way to the LNF. In other words, you teach the skills discretely almost in English and in maths, but then the DCF or the LNF gives you the opportunity to develop those skills across the curriculum. Well, this is due to work in the same way, but bearing in mind we were writing this without the AOLE developed yet. So the Science and Technology AOLE is coming, but hasn't even been written yet. Starts in January, we're informed. This is what it looks like online, split up into skills. You've got A, B, C steps for special schools to start with, moving on to nursery reception, and all the way through as a continuum. If you click in, you can see different materials to provide more of exemplification of each of the skill statements. And there are some things, and even now we read it and we think, oh, that needs to be tweaked, that needs to be changed. And so please have your say and contribute to the development of it. I talked about exemplification, and that's still in development as well. There were some points that came out when we released it with little classroom ideas for tasks. The exemplification got really difficult to do. The reason being, whenever you release a framework that's around technology, you've got to bear in mind that to make it future-proof, you have to make the framework quite woolly, because technologies don't last very long. They develop and they change and they evolve and they adapt. And so we had to make a framework that had statements and skills that would kind of future-proof, but with exemplification that will also evolve and adapt and progress as technology and software and hardware does. The exemplification that we're looking at building at the moment, and if anybody is interested in getting involved, then please speak up at the end, because the more the merrier really with this. We're looking at building rich tasks. Now, there are a couple of ways you could approach the DCF. You could take a specific skill, and you could just teach a lesson to meet that skill. That's okay. You could then move on, and I think it would. You'd end up having to kind of map your subjects and be quite careful with how you were doing that. But that's one way of doing it. A far better way, I would say, and I would encourage you to do, is look at your themes that you teach at school, look at your topics, look at the things that you're developing in your topics, and see where there are opportunities that lend themselves to developing these skills, but then plan tasks that not only meet one or two skills in the lesson, but actually meet several skills. And you'll find, as you begin to plan your tasks and think about tasks, particularly to take this one as a skill, this was a thing that a school did. They created a band camp. It was a school of rock, and they designed their logo. So they did some graphics with coming up with their band names and designing the logo, and they designed their merchandise. They had a back photo shoot and did some green screen there, you can see. Did some photo editing as well. They created a band music video, used GarageBand to create their song. So great, all a range of skills. One kind of project with several tasks in. But if we were to look through and we were all to sit down with highlighters and I get those children to talk to you about exactly what they had to do, I guarantee we'd probably highlight the majority of the interacting and collaborating strand and the producing strand of the digital competence framework. So don't try and tackle them skill by skill. Try to take the framework as a whole and plan your tasks to involve a range of those skills. And I would argue that's the best way to meet it. You can see here some of the other things that the children did as well. Great, you're welcome to steal that and do it in your own schools if you like.
Okay? Essentially, these are the questions. Is it the most effective way to solve problems? Is it the fastest way? Does it require the least amount of resources? And so on. And these are key questions about computational thinking. And when you think about it, it's a combination of scientific methodology and mathematical application. Okay? It's not about IT. As bizarre as it sounds, it's not about IT. Right. Bit of example. These are the parts of data and computational thinking. The composition, pattern recognition, algorithms, and abstractions. Really, really bizarre. And I can almost see the faces in the audience slump at this point. Right? I'll show you examples of this. Really simple examples of this. Here, this is an example of a language test, year 10, French. Okay, and basically it was done so to entice younger learners, primary school learners, to start picking up French. Okay? On this side, you'll see a whole lot of coding and different instructions and stuff like that. It uses computational thinking ideas about rules, customs, procedures. But what's really important is the language, the MFL part of it. What was then produced on the left-hand side was a simple game. This game was spread into our primary schools. Very basically, a year 10 pupils, a group of year 10 pupils, using IT solutions that primary school pupils use, developed a game. Through all of this, it's not about IT, it's not about competition thinking, it's about competition thinking, but what was paramount was languages, was learning French language, and that's the whole important part of it. In a primary school, just show of hands, how many secondary colleagues do we have? Very few. In a primary school, having spoken to a lot of primary school teachers, you're already delivering in a Donaldson-esque way. Secondary schools is a far bigger minefield. We've been entrenched with departments. What we do in one department and that's it. Trying to think outside this department idea is very, very difficult. And we don't want everyone to be an IT teacher. Here is all about languages. That was the main part of it. Next one. Another example, this is the physics Welsh back example of competition thinking. Just talk about this one, and I really like this one. I mean, I'm a physics teacher, this is quite close to hand. A pupil went away. Welsh back assignment, those of you who are secondary know that Welsh back year 13 research is a very big project. They went away, contacted universities, contacted things about problems that universities have. And essentially, he went back and he developed this program. It's a photon generator, okay? It's quite complex, but essentially what he did, bear in mind, this pupil does not do IT. He took a problem that actually exists, he did a lot of mathematical interpretation behind it, wrote a program that sat on top of it, and now, essentially, you put the data in, it then chucks out the equations, the mathematical interpretation behind it. It's a very, very complicated idea, but he's broken it down. He's broken down the problem and produced a model to do with it. This is very, very high-end. This is very able year 13 pupil, and it's very high-end. But this is where we can go. This is a real example of computational thinking, digital competency, full-on digital competency, breaking down real-life problems. Right on here is the coding that you go behind it. And I think this is where we're going to go. It's very complicated for us, but essentially, this is where we're going to go. Okay? I've given you some idea, but please do all of it. We're not expecting all of this tomorrow. Small steps. Please start use it bit by bit.
And I think I'll put that approach up there. What can we tell you that's most valuable to you in 10 minutes about digital competency framework? We've taken nothing else away from this presentation. Couple of things. Firstly, some people ask, does the digital competence framework mean there has to be technology in every single lesson? Absolutely not. That's not the case at all. Use it where it's appropriate, use it where it can really enhance the teaching and learning, underpin what you're doing. If you can do something better with a flip chart and a marker pen, use the flip chart and a marker pen. Don't feel like you've just got to cram technology for the sake of it. The second thing, I forgot what the second thing was. The second thing...
I actually was quite professional, despite the man today.
Andy, tell me something about the DCF. They need to know.
No knee-jerk reactions by
no knee-jerk reactions buying any sort of technology. And I think have a go. You can read this quote. The only difference between I'm techie and I'm not techie is the willingness to click stuff and see what happens. And I think that's a great quote, particularly for teachers who are nervous about this coming out. Know that it's in development. And support, there's a whole kind of package of support being developed. Andy Rothwell for the EAS is doing marvellous work going around schools. I know you really are, honestly. Doing some great work going around schools supporting. If you need help with anything in your school, feel free to get in touch with us. or Andy, and we can advise whether that be on technology purchases or.
Please, feedback on the Learning Wheels website. Please, any feedback, put it on there, because that will go back to lost government, and that will be considered as well, okay?
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the first part of the evening. Obviously now the rest of the evening is going to take place on the top floor. So as our presenters make their way up there, I'm just going to point out a couple of logistics for you. You are each given a menu booklet at the beginning, hopefully. If you don't have one, don't worry, we'll furnish you with one. If you've already thrown in the bin, we'll furnish you with another one. But on the front, you've got a colour. Okay? You can do it with a marker pen, do it with a marker pen, it's what they said, so I did. You've got a colour at the top, underlined under the EAS logo, so right on the front cover. You should have a little underlined stripe. That colour, actually look at everyone looking now. It's that technical. That colour denotes the table that you will start off at first. I'm going to give that instruction again. That table, that colour, will denote the table which is your first workshop. So let's have an example. Matt, what colour is on your menu? I've got orange. So when you go upstairs, what colour are you looking for, Matt? Orange. Spot on. Okay. So there are two ways to get upstairs. One is lift, which is really slow and only accommodates about 6 people. But if you have got a medical condition, you can use a lift. Otherwise, it's stairs. And Kat will show you where the stairs are. We'll see you right there in a minute.
Forever and ever and ever. And then check that you've gone across the I got lost. SDR, background,
I'm taking what up in touch. Hello, how are you? Yeah, I remember last week about obviously she gets going to hospital.
Hang on. Let me just.
and if you were on that same thing now, it would live show up in that. So when you're exploring things, I could go over to, and I did this with our students not long ago, so my pond is on the other side of this building. I put some swans on the lake and stuff. You can put photos of their work, yeah, so you just add in whatever you want. So all of these characters can be dropped into it. All buildings can be made, so you can get them to create their own buildings. And then the final one, yeah, you can just search the internet and drop things into it. So all of this information just be built up so students can create for themselves, or with the younger ones, you create something like our art gallery and allow the students to just explore it and just talk about their experiences. So virtual reality is kind of coming into education a lot more. The next thing I just want to show you, if you come out of that app, just tap on the home button, pinch this one, second. If you go onto this app here, it's called Little Star. Should be on your screens. Now this is a set of virtual reality, or not, sorry, not virtual, 360-degree videos that have been created, and there's some fantastic ones. If you go to the bottom, there's ones all about travel. So choose anyone you want, but I'll just show you roughly what they look like. Here's a virtual tour of Paris. Now your students might not be able to go to Paris, but there might be some fantastic learning opportunities. Now this works on the goggles really well because you can actually explore it and have a look around, but it works equally as well just using the iPad, you can see. So if you just have a look at that, and as you move the iPad around, you can explore the world around you. So just choose something. There's a great one on there about volcanoes as well. Just choose something. So if I put it onto this as well. This bit of cardboard costs about £2. So Tiger stores that are over, there's one over in Friars Walk, £2 these cost. You can get them on the internet, Google cardboard boxes, they're not expensive. Obviously the thing that goes inside it is expensive, but lots of schools have these, but they're not necessarily used to full potential. So lots of schools will have iPods and they use them now to take photos of students. It's an expensive tool. When you can think you could use this to take children on an exploration of undersea or to Mars, there's a fantastic video in there where you can go on Mars alongside the Mars rover and actually have a look around Mars. You can see how you can bring the world into the classroom with students. These are all free, yeah. So post pages is free to use and use in this frame and then download onto the device. More like and there's lots of that.
So instead of just asking children,
Like to meet you, like 60 seconds to do that. You guys reset on the table and work as a floor here. Is that alright? Yeah. Now, you're probably wondering why the orange blank ones. Okay, for some of the more able learners, this is a chance for them then to add any information that they know that link any of the entities together. So if you just try and link them. One minute to go. Okay, guys, minutes up. Anyone disagree? Okay.
It just gets you talking.
What we did at this point is we went round table at a time with the children. Okay. And we said, okay, why do we link them in that way? And they were able to give some sort of explanation. Then, as you can see on the screen, the child actually came up with a comprehensive piece of writing about how sound is heard. And we then went back later on to revisit that.
Yeah, so in a summary, it's a professional model that describes the level of complexity It is an excellent AFL tool, so the children are asking themselves, where am I now, where are we going, and how will I get there? And then it can be applied, as we just said, to any subject.
Okay, that's 10 minutes, thank you very much. So you're going to go in numerical order now. So 1 to 2 to 3. It's a percentage. Hold up, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
No, with this, we're not explaining this. We said take a simple.
Number one, sorry.
Number one.
Not my role. Sorry.
You guys
Okay, yeah. All right.
Right, excellent.
Right, yes, okay. Am I in the way? Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've got to say
Hold up one second.
Okay.
It's all going out live, so it's all going out live anyway, so just carry on. It's
not.
It is.
There.
No, we have to give them. No, we'll give them out.
Yeah, no.
Okay, off we go, round 2.
Okay, good evening, guys, and welcome to the solo taxonomy element of the Teachbites workshop.
I'm Sarah Dial.
And I'm Chris Erasmus, and hopefully by the end of this session, you will have a greater understanding of what solo taxonomy is and how it can be applied to your classroom and how you can use it. Just a quick show of hands. Hands up who's either heard of the term before or is using it in their classroom already. 1, 2, okie dokie, fab. So, for the rest of us as well, solo, okay, stands for the structure of observed learning outcomes, okay, and basically it's a progressional model which is quite similar to Bloom's taxonomy, whereby a child increases in the complexity of their understanding, going from not knowing anything about a subject or an area of a subject to a very deep level of understanding, okay.
So as Chris just said, here's the scale. So you've got no idea about a subject, right the way across to an extended abstract where you're linking in different situations. So at the moment, with regards to solo taxonomy, where would you say you were? Have a look at Elisa, the scale is on the front. Do you have no idea of solo? Do you have an idea, you've heard of it, for example? You've got several ideas, but you're not linking them yet. Can you link them and can you apply them to other situations? Use a red pen, mark off where you are currently on your sheet. Inside your leaflet, there is a box where you can add your own ideas if you want to. And on the back, there is our Twitter. Use